it would not be reasonable and feasible to build that product there. Short conversation, okay? And for it to be highest and best use, it must be possible. What I mean by possible is you must have the infrastructure to be able to do it. You don't build a Walmart on the side of a mountain, okay? So it must be legal, reasonable and feasible, and it must be possible. Does that make sense? Now let me ask you this question about highest and best use. Do you think there might be some farmer out there between Holly Springs and Fuquay that can really sell his property for a mint right now to a developer? But they might say this. They might say, you know what? I don't want to sell it. I want to use it as a family farm. That's what it's always been. I'm not going to sell it. He's not maximizing highest and best use, right? But is he doing anything illegal? No, it's his property to do whatever he wants to. He's just leaving money on the table. That's okay. You don't have to sell a property for highest and best use. But if you're a real estate agent and someone says, what's the value of my property? Now it's kind of important, right? Okay. When you come into my neighborhood and look at my house, I doubt seriously if you need to do a feasibility study on my house. My house is a single-family home in a single-family neighborhood, and it will be for the next 70 years. Okay? So no feasibility study is necessary for that. Highest and best use is pretty obvious. Okay, economic principle of substitution. This one is important. Economic principle of substitution. Here's your definition of the economic principle of substitution. And by the way, for those of you who've never taken an econ class before, sometimes you'll get a definition and you'll look down and you'll say, I can't believe I wrote that down. That was so obvious, I can't believe I even wrote that down. You're going to say that here in about 18 seconds because here is your economic principle of substitution. All things being equal, in other words, in this class have an equal utility. All things being equal, consumers would rather pay less than more. Somebody had to write that stuff. Can you believe that? All things being equal, people would rather pay what? Less. Less. Did you have to guess at that or did you already know it? People would rather pay less than more. I actually refer to this as the Walmart principle. Now, why did I have you put a star beside this? Keep writing, please, and then we'll talk about it. This is the whole basis behind the CMA. The principle of substitution is the whole basis behind the CMA, or under the CMA, supporting the CMA, however you want to say it. The economic principle of substitution is the support for the CMA. Now, that I've said it, Melissa, you're still nodding your head, so you want to explain this one as well?
So, when you're talking about your comparative or your comparative properties, it's those things that make it superior or inferior to that.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, remember the concept of equal utility? I know no houses are the same. I know no houses are exactly the same. But if they have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in a pool neighborhood and they have roughly the same amenities, they technically have equal utility. You want to put your house on the market for $200,000, but other people have theirs on the market for $190,000. All things being equal, they're going to buy the $190,000 first, right? So here's the deal. You don't have to be an econ professor to do this, although it might help. There are 2 houses on the market for $190,000. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. There's one on the market for $190,000. There are 2 on the market for $200,000. All things being equal, which one's going to sell first? Okay, that's the economic principle of substitution. You're saying, Chris, I got it. But let me tell you why this is so important. This is the way it's going to work in the field. This is the way it's going to work in the field. You have been asked to list this house right here. Okay? You know from doing your research that there are 2 other houses on the market, roughly the same, having equal utility. On the market for $200,000. You have done your research on this neighborhood. You know in this production neighborhood that houses have sold for between $195,000 and $200,000. Agent, how much do you believe this house is going to sell for right here? You think it's going to sell for around $200,000, right? But you're sitting there with your seller. And you said, hey, Mr. Seller, How much do you believe your house is going to sell for? And the seller's going to say, well, I believe I can sell my house at $250. Okay? Why is the seller going to say that? Because they don't know jack about the economic principle of substitution, and they perceive that their house is better than everything else around. I actually talked to a guy one day, he said, well, I believe my house is worth this amount because I bought it for this amount, and I've heard that around here things appreciate about 10% per year. So he just added 10% per year and came up to this number, which was exorbitantly high. And I said, no, that's not the way it works. But I don't actually have to say that. I don't actually have to say that. How do I know this property is worth $200,000? That's what other people have been willing to sell, and other sellers have been willing to accept. And that's what the competition is saying right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out all the listings that have sold over the last 6 months, and I'm going to flip over that, and I'm going to say, Mr. Seller, do you see a trend? Okay? I know in my mind the trend is telling him $200,000. And that way, it's not me personally telling him that his house is worth $200,000. Who is it that's telling him that his house is worth $200,000? The market, other buyers and other sellers, the facts. That's what's telling him. So here's how this is going to go. Sellers will say, oh, Chris, I see exactly what you're saying. Thank you so much for your help. You're right. I probably couldn't get more than $240,000 for my house. Sellers are a little slow sometimes on the uptake. Okay? But that's the economic principle of substitution, and that's what's so important to you as a real estate agent. Items of equal utility are roughly going to sell for the same thing. Now let me ask you this: if he said 210, would you take the listing at 210? I think I would at 210. I wouldn't take it for 250 because he's just way out of the ballpark. But at 210, if nobody ever asks for more than 200, nobody's ever going to get more than 200, right? So in the moving market, I would probably ask for something even a little bit on the high side of my CMA. But you do understand that as agents, these are our opinions of value. Where they actually list it is his house. Where they actually list it is up to them. Whether you choose to accept the listing or not is up to you and your marketing experience for that matter. Okay? Economic principle of substitution. Can you make that important to you? Please do. Please do. Questions or comments before I move on? Supply and demand. I'm okay on supply and demand. The more supply you have and the less demand, obviously the prices are going to be lower. The more demand and the lower supply, obviously the prices are going to be higher. Value follows demand, to be honest. Okay, let's go to the economic principle of conformity. When I give you my definition of conformity, you will know that I just simply stole this from a book because I don't talk like this. Here's your definition of conformity. Harmonious or homogeneous use of property. Harmonious or homogeneous use of property. I don't even know what homogeneous means. Okay, just say homogeneous. Homogeneous just means the same.
Homogeneous means something the same.
Yeah. Harmonious or homogeneous use of property leads to the maximizing of property values. Harmonious or homogeneous use of properties leads to the maximizing of property values. All right, let's talk about that for just a minute. I'm going to give you a hint. I'm just making this up. But I refer to this as the subdivision concept. I refer to this as the subdivision concept. You know what I'm saying, Jen? Yeah, cookie cutter. Yeah, a lot of times when you ride into a subdivision and you look around and say, my gosh, everything in here is roughly the same. That is by design, okay? It's the most efficient, most effective way to create a subdivision because everybody holds each other's property values up. And as much as you hate HOAs and restrictive covenants, that's part of holding each other's values up, okay? You must build at least this size. You can't use these crazy colors. We're holding each other's value up. The economic principle of conformity. You want to have a small star beside it. Not as big as the star next to substitution, but I do want you to be familiar with that term. Okay? The economic principle of anticipation. The economic principle of anticipation. See if this is reflective of the way that you purchased a home. Let's write down a definition to start with. Anticipation. You purchase property today. You purchase property today based to some extent on future value. You buy today to some extent based on the concept of its future value. Now that might not mean anything to you yet, but let me ask you this. Who have I not heard from today? Eric, you've been awfully quiet today. So let me ask you, when you purchased your home, what things do you like to be around when you purchase your home?
Grocery store.
Grocery?
The schools.
Schools?
And just conveniences.
Conveniences, parks, things like that.
Trails, yeah.
Could anybody have given me that exact same list?
Yep.
Is that kind of what most of you look for? And listen, by the way, if you didn't, it doesn't make you weird. It just means that you're not among the 90%. So think about this. When I purchased our property in Holly Springs, I was not that familiar with Holly Springs. Normally I look for all those things when we're buying a house. In Holly Springs, that was not the case. We knew we liked the house, we knew we were going to stay there for a while. And then, as if by magic, they built a school nearby. I was like, yes. And then they built a Harris Teeter. It's a good thing it's a Harris Teeter, because apparently the food line's not good enough for my wife. It's got to be a Harris Teeter. Okay. So anyway, boom, that was awesome as well. And then, of course, as they started adding other amenities, it helped the value of our properties. Why? Because when I get ready to sell that house, wouldn't I rather sell it to what 90% of the people are looking for than what 10%? Now look, there's people out there that want to buy and live on horse farms, and I don't blame them. That's a lovely, lovely property. But when you get ready to sell it, who are you looking for? You're looking for a small group of people who want to buy horse farms. That's the economic principle of anticipation. Does that make sense? You buy property today based to some extent on its future value. The same things you were looking for, when you get ready to sell it, other people will be looking for that as well. Okay, contribution. That's the other one that you need to have a big star beside it. Economic principle of contribution. You are already familiar with this, so let me give it a name. Economic principle of contribution. An improvement is only worth the value that it adds or contributes to a property. An improvement is only worth the value that it adds or contributes to a property. Let's go back over here to our well-informed seller for just a moment. That adds or contributes to the property. Victor, when you did the math on these problems on Friday, we were using contribution adjustments. I know you can't build a full bath for $4,000, but that's all it contributes by virtue of it having an extra full bath, okay? So let's go back to our well-informed seller, and let's see what that would look like. All right, here we are. I know his house is worth $200,000. I have done the research on this house. I sit down with the seller and I go over it and I say, Mr. Seller, how much do you believe your property is worth? And he says, $220. I say, why do you say your property is worth $220? I just showed you the research that said it's worth $200. It's worth $220. Why do you say that? Well, here's why I say that. My friend down the street just sold the exact same floor plan. We literally bought it within weeks of each other when this was a new neighborhood. He just sold his property for $220,000. If he can sell it, I can sell mine for $220,000. This actually shocks me because I have every sale in the neighborhood, right? And so I start flipping through and I say, oh, there's your neighbor's house. You know what? As a matter of fact, it did sell for $220,000. There's his friend's house right there. What does his friend's house have that his doesn't have? A two-car garage. It has a two-car garage. Oh, I see. Your friend's house sold for $220,000, and it had a two-car garage. So what do you tell me? If I had a two-car garage, I can sell mine for $220,000?
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Do you think I should build a two-car garage? Well, by my estimates, it's going to cost you $38,000 to build that two-car garage. Okay? Well, do you think I should do it? No, you can do math. You know? Why would you spend $38,000 to make $20,000? I recommend you sell your house for $200,000 and come out ahead. So what would it cost to build that garage today? $38,000. But how much does it contribute to the value? Apparently, according to this, $20,000. Uh-oh, Jen, for a tough question that we talked about on Friday. Looking at a house that sold for $200 without a garage, and a house that sold for $220 with a garage. What would an appraiser do? Do you remember what it's called?
They would subtract the value of the garage.
And what do we call that? Start with the letter P.
Paired sale analysis.
Bam! The appraiser would do what's known as a paired sales analysis. And on the paired sales analysis, these houses are exactly the same, except for that garage, and except for $20,000, which means the garage is worth $20,000. Got it? Okay, that is the economic principle of contribution. And now we only have a couple minutes before break here, so let me get you guys to play for about 4 minutes here. The economic principle of contribution is actually important in the field, and here's why. If you ever get a seller, a really good seller that's easy to work with, he may ask you this question, okay? I have some money to spend to make my house ready for the market. Where is the best place to spend this money so that we can get the best return on it? What they're asking you is, where can I spend money that's going to get me the highest dollar-for-dollar return? What's your estimate? Kitchen? Master bath? But how? You can't do a kitchen remodel. That costs you $100,000 to do a kitchen remodel. What are you going to do? Put some makeup on it. I heard somebody say paint. Clearly, what the market is telling us today is turnkey, ready to go. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Okay, so this is a big deal. This is not the time to do a kitchen remodel, but we can certainly put some makeup on it, right? Even such things as, if you guys, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to do it anyway. In our kitchen right now, what color are our pools on our cabinets, please?
Oh, we've got some brass ones and some silver ones and some pewter ones.
We have some brass from 1997, and unless that comes back soon, if we got ready to sell our house, we would certainly have to replace those. How much would it cost us to replace those? A nominal amount of money, but it might add value to it. Yeah, even in kitchens today, the countertops have actually gotten reasonable enough now. I had a buddy say, tell me what you think about this. This house was built in the probably early 90s, I'm guessing, in Sunset Ridge over in Holly Springs. That house is on the market, or when it was on the market, it was on the market for $650,000. And he asked me this question: do you think I should replace my laminate countertops?
Oh my God.
Dude, yeah. I mean, in this case, now, if it had been a $120,000 house, it would be one thing. But on his house, I would say, in that case, he just has to replace it to not drop in value. Because of that, people have a certain expectation when they walk in houses of a certain value. So kitchens and baths, where else are you going to spend money? What do you think, Dan?
Landscaping, give it curb.
Certainly curb appeal. I was telling the story one day, Daniel, in class, and I had a guy that was in my class. He said, man, I'm glad you said that. I just spent $15,000 on landscaping. I'm getting ready to sell my house. And I said, well, $15,000 wasn't exactly what I was talking about. What I meant was go down to Lowe's and get you some plants that are actually in season. Spend some 99 cents on plants and some money on straw or whatever it is you put down. Cut your grass, trim your grass and stuff like that. Paint your mailbox. You can do stuff like that. Paint the doors, actually, has gotten to be popular over time. The front door, so it has that impact as you walk in. So certainly curb appeal can be done very, very reasonably if done correctly. What else? What else do we miss? Say again?
Flooring and paint.
Yeah, flooring has actually gotten very, very reasonable. Flooring and painting. Painting, I've always said, is one of the best ways that you can spend money. And then, Michelle, have we missed anything? You're out there in the field. What's on?
Fixtures.
Fixtures, okay. Cleaning up your light fixtures and stuff. We did that recently to add value to our house. Staging, when you get in the field, again, the concept of turnkey ready to go seems to be a big deal. Buyers want to walk in the house and see themselves living in that house. That has a lot of value today. Yeah.
Closet space.
Closet space to the extent that you can. You're selling a house built in 1978. Man, y'all should go to the Parade of Homes sometime and walk there. Have y'all been to the Parade of Homes? I saw closets this year that were bigger than the first apartment I lived in. Okay, first apartment we lived in was what, 250 square feet? I saw closets. I walked in, I thought it was another room. and realize it was just a closet. Now, you're limited obviously by the year of your house in that particular case, but closet storage and things like that have taken on a value on their okay? Where can I spend my money to get the best return? That is the economic principle of contribution. Does that make sense? The reason it's important to you is because when we did our adjustments on the math, we adjusted according to the contribution value, not its actual cost. Yes?
What about sunroom?
Sunroom?
Yeah.
If I could do it reasonably, I might would do it. I would not add a sunroom to sell the house. If I had a sunroom, so here's some good news for you. You know, for major projects in the in the southeast, which we follow to the southeast, do you know what one of the biggest return on value for major projects in the southeast is? Outdoor living environments. Outdoor living environments have a great return in the southeast. I would not do that to sell a house, but if I did that and did it nicely, I'd probably get a decent return when I did sell the house. Yellow.
So how do you make a judgment call on, you don't want to like over improve your neighborhood and be most expensive? Like we've been talking about what we want to do to our house. You know, I want to do like a screening porch and a patio, things like that. And luckily we just had some bigger houses we built on our street, but before that we were the biggest in our area. So how do you, I don't want to overdo it.
Well, I mean, CMAs, that's the way you like to do it. Y'all understand the question that she's asking? You know, you see these areas that are built in the late 70s, early 80s, most of them are going through some type of renewal at this point. I never want to be the first person, because if you're the first person who's upgrading your property, you're never going to get a return on your investment. I want to be the ninth one, because now it's calculated into CMAs. But I would do CMAs, and here's what I look at. One, what are other people doing that appears to translate into value? Or the other thing is, if you want to do an improvement and it's an over improvement, my question to you is, are you going to use it? You know, the fact is, I want to have a swimming pool. Do you know what swimming pools add in my neighborhood? Do you know what a swimming pool would add in my neighborhood? Literally nothing, might even detract from the value of the property because of the insurance issues and stuff like that. But you know what? If I want it, and we're going to use it, then it's not a matter of return on investment as much as it is something like that. So ask yourself this, am I building this, and am I going to sell in 5 years, or am I going to get 10, 20 years of enjoyment out of it? And in that case, it's not so much the actual dollar value, it's the intrinsic value that you'll get out of it. But CMA, if you're thinking about selling it in the next few years. Okay. Competition and change are somewhat obvious, right? How does competition affect value? If there's a bunch of houses just like yours on the market, what's going to happen to the value of the properties? Probably all going to go down until you clear out that inventory. And then, of course, change. What could change overnight that affected the value of my property? What could change overnight that affected the value of my property?
Fire.
Could burn down, it could get blown down by a tornado, RTP could shut down. Okay, that would immediately affect the values of our property. That's not going to happen tonight, don't worry, but I'm saying that's an example of change. Economic principles of value, substitution, contribution, big deal, conformity a little bit. Be aware of those words. Get yourself a point on the exam. I have that. It's now break time.